It's the closest we've ever been to the end of the world. 89 seconds to midnight. What does that mean? And what can we do about it before it's too late? This might be my most important message. My name is Scott Layton, and I have some serious and chilling news for you, if you don't already know it. Humanity and all life on Earth is at risk of extinction if we don't take immediate action. Today we're going to explain why and what we can do about it. The clock is ticking. Now you've probably heard of the Doomsday Clock, the symbol created by the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists that reflects how close we are to global catastrophe. As of 2025, that clock stands at 89 seconds to midnight, the closest it's ever been in history. This marks an unprecedented moment in our modern era, a moment where existential threats, from nuclear warfare and climate change to economic instability and inequality, are converging. According to scientists, the danger is no longer a distant threat we can ignore. It's here, pressing upon us. Why 89 seconds? What does that really mean? And how does that tie into the state of the world today? To understand the gravity of this moment, we need to look at history. The Doomsday Clock was created in 1947 at the dawn of the nuclear age. At that time, experts set the clock at 7 minutes to midnight, a sobering recognition of the threat posed by atomic bombs. As history has unfolded, the clock has ticked back and forth, symbolizing periods of greater or lesser danger. In 1991, after the Cold War ended, it was set the furthest from a midnight at 17 minutes when the world breathed a collective sigh of relief. But since then, the clock has been ticking closer to the end, driven by global tensions, environmental collapse, and economic instability. In 2023, it reached 90 seconds to midnight, reflecting escalating nuclear threats and climate change. This year, that clock crept even closer, and this time, it's not just nuclear weapons or environmental concerns we're worried about. It's the interconnected nature of all these threats, converging at a terrifying rate. What does this mean for us today? One of the key reasons the Doomsday Clock is so close to midnight is the rise of political leaders like Donald Trump, whose return to power would have profound consequences not just for the United States, but for the world. His brand of leadership, characterized by volatile decisions and a disregard for diplomacy, is a direct threat to international stability. Trump's past presidency saw significant policy shifts, including a pullback from international agreements on climate change, trade, and nuclear arms control, leaving a fractured global order in its wake. Now, with his return to the White House, that threat to global security grows ever larger. Consider the geopolitical tensions that have unfolded in recent years, wars like those in Ukraine and Gaza, and the rising influence of Russia on the world stage. Trump's return could embolden authoritarian regimes and undermine the institutions built to prevent global conflict. The dangers of unchecked nationalism, combined with the growing instability of the Middle East and the Eastern European fronts, threaten to spiral into something far more catastrophic. But it's not just the threat of war or nuclear escalation. The real challenge lies in democracy itself. According to experts, the health of democratic institutions is at an all-time low. Leaders like J.D. Vance, who aligns himself with Trump's ideals, push forward a dangerous ideology that undermines democratic norms and freedoms. These are not just local threats, but global ones. A world where democracy is eroded is a world where the greatest minds of our time, the thinkers, the innovators, the creators, are stifled under authoritarian rule. When democracy is weakened, so too is the hope for a sustainable, peaceful future. Humanity is facing a confluence of challenges that are unprecedented in modern history. These threats, though not entirely new, have reached a level of intensity and interconnectedness that is truly worrying. While humanity has faced existential threats before, such as during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Cold War, or the devastation caused by both world wars, today's combination of global crises brings with it an unparalleled complexity and urgency. Leaders who reject diplomacy and undermine institutions pose systemic risks. History warns us, when nationalism replaces pluralism, the road to conflict shortens. The effects of climate change are more apparent than ever, with extreme weather events becoming more frequent and intense, and global temperatures rising at an alarming rate. These changes are not just environmental, they directly threaten food security, water availability, and the livability of entire regions. The ongoing sixth mass extinction is equally dire, with species going extinct at a rate far higher than the natural background rate. We are losing biodiversity at a scale that is already impairing ecosystems that humans depend on for agriculture, clean water, and air. While pandemics, such as the COVID-19 outbreak, are not a new phenomenon, the scale and speed at which diseases can spread today, aided by global interconnectedness and environmental degradation, have exposed vulnerabilities in public health systems. The current rise in zoonotic diseases, influenced by habitat destruction and climate change, could potentially lead to even more devastating outbreaks in the future. The overwhelming impact of pollution, particularly microplastics, is now clear. These tiny particles not only harm marine life and ecosystems, but also enter the food chain and pose direct risks to human health. Microplastics are impairing photosynthesis in plants, which are essential for food production and carbon sequestration, further compounding climate change. If these trends continue, they could undermine food security, harm human health, and destabilize entire ecosystems. The rise of artificial intelligence, especially the potential for AI to develop into something akin to artificial general intelligence, AGI, raises the specter of unknown risks. Although AI holds immense promise, without careful governance and safeguards, it could lead to massive economic upheavals, exacerbate inequality, or even pose existential risks if it falls into the wrong hands or develops in an uncontrolled manner. Despite decades of effort to reduce nuclear arsenals, geopolitical tensions, particularly between major powers, have rekindled concerns about the potential for nuclear conflict. As treaties dissolve and arms races escalate, the possibility of a catastrophic event involving nuclear weapons remains a constant threat. This is compounded by the risks posed by nuclear energy, which, though necessary for reducing carbon emissions, introduces the risk of accidents or weaponization. While UAPs have not yet been linked to any direct existential threat, the growing attention to them within military and scientific communities suggests that we may face unknown threats, whether of terrestrial or extraterrestrial origin. While it's unlikely that UAPs pose an immediate threat to humanity, the fact that they are unexplainable and exhibit characteristics beyond current technological capabilities raises questions about what else we might be unprepared for. In a world facing so many existential threats, it's important to reflect on the philosophy of existentialism. Existentialism is the belief that individuals must create meaning in a chaotic and indifferent universe. At its core, existentialism confronts the uncomfortable reality that life can feel arbitrary, that nothing is predetermined, and that we are ultimately responsible for the choices we make in our lives and in our world. We stand at a crossroads, grappling with questions of meaning and purpose in a world that seems to be crumbling under the weight of its own crises. Existentialism calls us to act, to embrace the responsibility that comes with the freedom to make choices. Today, the stakes are higher than ever. The choices we make, individually and collectively, will determine whether humanity has a future. If the environmental and geopolitical crises weren't enough, we now face a looming economic crisis. Recession, inflation, stagflation, and even the possibility of a depression hang over our heads. But here's the harsh truth. The wealthy often emerge from recessions richer and more powerful. The concentration of wealth has reached a tipping point where only the rich benefit from economic downturns, and the rest of society bears the brunt of the collapse. Asset acquisition at bargain prices. During economic downturns, asset prices, stocks, real estate, businesses, often plummet. The wealthy, with their vast resources, can purchase these assets at a fraction of their value, positioning themselves for massive gains when the economy rebounds. This practice not only consolidates wealth, but also increases their influence over markets and industries. Influence over policy. The rich have the resources to lobby for policies that favor their interests, such as tax cuts, deregulation, and bailouts. These policies often exacerbate inequality, ensuring that wealth continues to flow upwards, even during times of crisis. Speculative investments. With insider knowledge and financial cushioning, the wealthy can engage in speculative investments, betting on market movements that would be too risky for the average investor. Their ability to weather losses allows them to take chances that can yield enormous profits. Meanwhile, the rest of society faces job losses, wage stagnation, and the erosion of savings. The gap between the rich and the poor widens, and the cycle of inequality deepens. This ever-increasing concentration of wealth isn't just an economic issue, it's a direct threat to democracy and social stability. When a small fraction of the population controls the majority of resources, they wield disproportionate power over political systems, media narratives, and public policy. This leads to erosion of social services. Public goods like affordable housing, healthcare, and infrastructure suffer from underfunding, as policies are skewed to favor private interests over the common good. Manipulation of public opinion. Wealthy elites can fund misinformation campaigns, fueling culture wars and divisive narratives that distract from the real issues at hand. They pit us against each other based on race, religion, and ideology, while they continue to amass power. Climate denial and environmental exploitation. To protect their investments in industries like fossil fuels, these elites often deny or downplay the realities of climate change, hindering collective action and policy reforms that could mitigate environmental disaster. But here's the truth they don't want us to realize. We are all one species, sharing 99.9% of the same DNA. The divisions they emphasize are artificial, designed to keep us fragmented and powerless. The challenges we face are monumental, but we are not powerless. Civic engagement is our most potent tool against the forces that seek to divide and exploit us. Here's how you can get involved. Educate yourself and others. Knowledge is power. Stay informed about local and global issues, and share that information within your community. Understanding the mechanisms of inequality and the impacts of policy decisions is the first step toward change. Participate in local governance, attend town hall meetings, join community boards, and vote in local elections. Change often starts at the grassroots level, and local policies can have immediate impacts on your community. Support equitable policies. Advocate for policies that promote economic fairness, such as progressive taxation, increased funding for social services, and regulations that prevent corporate exploitation. Engage in peaceful protest and activism. Collective action has historically been a powerful force for change. Join or organize peaceful demonstrations to voice dissent and demand accountability from those in power. Practice mindfulness and resilience. The weight of these issues can be overwhelming. Take a moment now for a quick breathing exercise. Inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 4. Exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 4. Repeat this cycle 4 times. This simple practice can help center your thoughts, reduce stress, and prepare you for the work ahead. Thank you for engaging with this critical message. What do you think is the most urgent threat facing humanity today? Drop a comment below. Renaissance Spirit is dedicated to a just, equitable, and compassionate future, grounded in reason, knowledge, and a deep commitment to future generations. We explore the world through many disciplines, because it's through polymathy that we uncover the vast dimensions of what it means to be human. We explore topics including history, politics, society, culture, and environmental justice, drawing lessons from the past to inform our present and future. Living the Renaissance spirit means recognizing that history is a living dialogue, constantly informing and enriching our present. It reminds us of our responsibility to future generations, our legacy. Will we grant them a future free from fear of climate change and tales of the end of democracy? Or will they admonish us for our sins and omissions? Or will they remember us fondly as saviors of humanity and the natural world? The Renaissance ushered in a golden age and the pursuit of knowledge both lost to time and yet to be discovered. It gave birth to the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason. Embracing truth, knowledge, and compassion for humanity and our shared history opens up the world to each of us individually and improves all of humanity, affording us the opportunity to be better stewards of the earth and to each other. Just as the Renaissance rose from the ashes of the Black Death, we too can rise from this age of crisis, but only if we act. The question is no longer whether change will come, but whether we'll rise to shape it. The Renaissance spirit is more than just a philosophy or style. It is a style for living, learning, growing, and thinking. Please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share, and take our quiz next to see if you're a Renaissance spirit. History hasn't died, only our understanding of it. Live the Renaissance spirit.